Hello again, I am Blunty, and this is part 2 of the Devil's Crevice project pre-build videos where I justify and explain my part choices so you folk can get a peek inside my thinking and reasoning for this new gaming PC build I am bringing to life. Last time we discussed my choice of 4690K CPU, and of course once a CPU is chosen, its socket type now dictates and narrows the selection of motherboards I need to choose from. There are quite a few socket 1150, or more properly the LGA 1150 motherboards out there, as it's a highly popular choice, particularly for gamers. And that means there are some fairly aggressive visual designs out there too, as many custom gaming rigs are built with a windowed case in mind for a bit of visual flair. And indeed I am building in a windowed case, so aesthetics played into my choices somewhat. I'm a visual guy, I like cool looking gear, and this rig will likely be on camera with me sometimes, so I'd like it to look a little bit kick-ass. With that in mind, the motherboard I finally came down to was the MSI Z97M gaming motherboard, or possibly the MSI Z97M gaming motherboard, depending on which side of the border you live on, America or Canada or whatnot. It's a micro ATX form factor, meaning it's smaller than the more traditionally standard sized ATX boards. I went micro ATX for a few reasons, one of which was as a dedicated machine I don't need the extra PCIe slots and such the larger boards feature. I also live in a small apartment and full-size towers would be a bit impractical and imposing when it comes to where this machine will live. The board itself features the Intel Z97 chipset, which for the uninitiated means more or less it's full-featured and allows for easy overclocking, while the usually much cheaper H97 or H97, depending on which side of the board you come from, based boards usually have little to no capability for overclocking, at least not easily, and quite often the H97 boards will support NVIDIA SLI or AMD Crossfire configurations for dual graphics card, but usually not both. That's not an immediate issue for me, but I like knowing that I've got flexibility of choice on the Z97 chipset if and when I do decide to switch out for a different graphics card or run dual graphics card, etc. The board supports 4 slots for DDR3 memory sticks. I'll be starting with a pair of dual channel sticks, so again, the 4 slots here is about looking forward to expandability rather than meeting an immediate need only. The board also allows you to overclock the RAM to up to 3300 MHz should I ever want to do that. Aside from that, it's got all the common stuff of course, PCIe 3.0 slot, 6 SATA 3 connections and 1 M.2 port for the new super compact form factor SSD storage with its insane 10 gigabits per second throughput. Although it has to be said, connecting to the M.2 port disables 2 of the 6 SATA 3 ports as they share some of the same pipelines. Not an issue for me, as this rig will never need that many drives in it simultaneously because I won't be using it for mass storage or media editing. It has 2 eSATA ports on the back there, which I doubt I'll ever use. I've never had a need for one yet, and I don't see a need for one in the near future, but it's nice to have them there just in case. 8 USB 3.0 ports in total, which is a really nice number, which means I can pack away my little hub I used to have to use on my gaming laptop. 6 on the rear, and 2 internal, which you would route to the front panel of the case, of course. 2 of those rear USB 3.0 ports also feature what MSI called USB audio power, which basically means these 2 ports in particular have had extra attention paid to the stability of the 5-volt rail to make connecting external audio devices like DACs, digital audio converters, an issue-free experience. I've no idea how much of a real-world difference it'd make, but it's nice to know it's there, I suppose. And on the subject of audio, it has an isolated audio PCB section, as quite a few of the higher-end gaming motherboards are tending to have these days. This isolates the onboard sound card, essentially, to help prevent crosstalk and other kinds of interference from messing with your audio. And if you've ever had sound ports that make your microphone sound buzzy or hummy or inject noise into your speakers or headphones, you'll know just how glad I am this is here. For example, the microphone port on my old gaming laptop was simply utterly unusable thanks to the noise that was being introduced into it. So hopefully I will have no such issues here. And even if I do, I've got those USB audio USB ports for a nice clean DAC signal. It's got a nice strong headphone amp built in too that will drive even high impedance 600 ohm cans. That's really nice to see too, as my preferred headset is slightly higher impedance than most headsets are. I mean, it's not 600 ohm high, but still it's higher than most. 2 more of the USB ports are marked for gaming devices. Basically, MSI wants you to use these ones for your keyboard and mouse specifically, for the best, most responsive experience on high-end gear like high-resolution tracking gaming mice, and the USB ports can also deliver enough power for high-current devices, so you can use it for fast-charging devices that support that. So that's really nice too. The gigabit LAN port is driven by the Killer 2200 chipset, which has some neat tricks for online gaming, like prioritizing game data over other stuff your system may be pinging around on the LAN or, indeed, to the internet. I'm more of a single player kind of guy usually, so that's not a huge deal for me, but a thought did occur, and I've not checked this out yet, but hopefully it will be configurable to some extent so I can prioritize OBS to help keep Twitch streaming really stable. For the integrated graphics on the i5 CPU I chose, there's a DisplayPort and HDMI output, so hooray, no silly legacy VGA ports here wasting space. Aside from that, MSI claim it supports military-class high-end componentry, and they back it with a 3-year warranty. It's got onboard power and reset buttons, handy for benchtop testing before the case install, or if using this on a test bench setup. And then there's the OC Genie 4, apparently the world's first built-in hardware overclocking technology built into a motherboard. I think I said built in too many times there. Basically, you punch the button and behind the scenes the BIOS presumably applies some reasonably conservative but reliable overclock settings based on what CPU, integrated GPU and memory it detects installed in it. They claim it can deliver anywhere up to a 20% boost in performance, which would be impressive, but I reckon that's a rare case. And I do intend to give it a try, of course, but manually overclocking is a deeply nerdy thing I'm looking forward to doing anyway. But this cheat button to overclock will make for an interesting point of comparison between what the board thinks are good settings compared to what I can grind out of it doing things the hard way. I will take a closer look at the BIOS and included software pack for control of fans and overclocking settings and all that kind of stuff later in a separate video when this machine is actually running and I could play with that stuff instead of just telling you about it. But from my own research, MSI's mouse-based UEFI BIOS seems like a nice implementation. And the final consideration, but still reasonably important, the aesthetics. It's a nice, striking, but not too over-the-top, cherry red and matte black affair, with the heatsinks featuring a cool dragon cord detailing thing going on, to match up with MSI's dragon branding, and a pretty sweet sort of almost automotive-looking Southbridge heatsink with the MSI Gaming Dragon shield, which I really quite like, and again, it kind of reminds me of a fancy car badge sitting on a bonnet or something. Speaking of which, they give you a nice badge for your case as well, should you wish to bling up the outside of your case with their dragon branding, which I think I might actually use, because it is a really cool looking logo. It's kind of classy and badass at the same time. I like it. So why did I choose this motherboard in the end? Well, aside from having a really nice feature set that matched really well with my particular needs and being from a brand that has a fair amount of goodwill and a good reputation for reliability and good customer service, well, there was one other leading choice which shared much of what I liked about the Z97M gaming, and it was the Asus Maximus Gene 7, which is nearly identical in feature set, benefits, similar design, similar color scheme, and frankly they were so closely matched I was going to get the Asus over the MSI for the mere fact that I know a guy at Asus, and so if something went, tits up, I could probably lean on him to help speed up a replacement or a solution or something. But when I went to make the purchase, the Asus was in fact sold out with no ETA on when stock would be replenished, so I went back to the MSI, with absolutely no regrets by the way, because it was my initial choice anyway before I even looked into the Asus Gene 7. But either way it came down, they both would have made good choices based on what I learned in my own research. Congratulations if you made it this far through all this nerdy techno babble. Drop a smiley face at the start of your comment if you made it this far without your eyes glazing over completely. Next up, surely a much quicker video of my choice of RAM and hard disks. Thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I will catch you in the next episode.